Let's get physical. It's Jordan here, back again with this week's update on all the physical releases coming to the Switch. We're in the first week of May, looking at games from the 4th until the 8th. It's a slim week this week, but stick around because I'm also putting in a bonus feature for the most exciting known upcoming imports for the year so far. Let's delve in. House Flipper from Merge Games and Signature Edition Games is not actually releasing this week, but is being put up for order this week, so you can pre-order this very different game. This is a game where you go through the process of buying, renovating, and selling houses for profit. Wouldn't be my first choice of genre if I was a game developer, but you know, these peculiar simulation type games have their niche audience that make them quite a success at times. Anyone have an interest in this one? There's a standard edition as well as the signature edition, which you can purchase from their website specifically. We showed off a few on this channel before, and they do some really nice stuff for the price. Small collector's editions, but not breaking the bank. Alright, let's jump into the low print releases. Brigantine, The Legend of Runercia from Limited Run was put up for pre-order late last week. The pre-order date was announced after last week's episode, as is usually the case. Anyways, I know this one has got a lot of people interested since it's a return of an obscure but well-liked tactical RPG. I really don't know much about this one, but I can imagine it being quite popular. I know Limited Run have got this one right now, but it's also available for import in case you missed it. Both the Japanese and Asian releases have English, although the Asian release has been blocked for purchase outside of that area, which also happened with another limited run game, suspiciously. But anyways, the Japanese release should be allowed to be imported if you fancy it. And Brigantine is Dane Wilkinson's pick of the week. It's also worth noting that from Limited Run, there's also a standard edition and collector's edition, which includes a soundtrack, reversible poster, as well as an enamel pin. I've already talked about Streets of Rage 4 from Limited Run Games when it first went up for pre-order, but in a surprise announcement last week, they added an extra super special collector's edition on top of the collector's edition they already had. This one comes with all sorts of stuff, especially compared to the disappointing original collector's edition. You can purchase it with the vinyl soundtrack, or you can buy that separately. Now, the sad news is that due to the timing of the announcement, it's already sold out. Man, I wish they would give more warning on these so I could tell you guys before it's too late. On a better note, Malacca from First Press Games went up for pre-order a couple of days ago. This is an interesting game. I think James reviewed it way back when. Definitely has an interesting concept mixing action-adventure gameplay with indigenous Mexican culture. I don't think it worked out 100% as planned, at least on the initial release, but I think some updates tweaked things a little. This is one of those games that I always assumed would get a low print release at some point. I'm just surprised it took this long. There's a standard edition as well as a collector's edition. Little Inferno is the latest release from Super Rare Games. This was the first game from Tomorrow Corporation, who are perhaps more famous for their release of Human Resource Machine, but this is the one that started it all for them. It's a short 3-hour puzzle game as you set fire to things. It has a standard edition as well as one that comes with a steelbook if you fancy paying 15 extra pounds. May the 7th if you want to order this one, and this is God of Resin's pick of the week, as he said he'll be getting this one himself. Alright, let's jump into the imports this week. Well, this is where I would, if there were any. But there aren't, and so instead I thought I'd go and take the opportunity to lay out some upcoming imports that you'll probably want to keep on your radar due to English language options and the lack of a physical release in the West. But before I do, I just want to remind you that at any point a Western release may be announced for these games, so don't take this as golden, okay? If you want to pre-order them, there are links in the description below and in the pinned comment. They are affiliate links, so if you do use them, you can also support the SwitchWatch team out massively. We really appreciate what you do for us, guys, especially with this little series of ours. It keeps the lights on for this series. Plus, you can also get 5% discount off all your orders if you use the coupon code SwitchWatchTV while you're checking out from PlayAsia. SwitchWatchTV, 5% off your order. Alright, first a couple of games from Bandai, a company that can be a little bit hit and miss with Western releases. One perhaps a little more likely, but still unannounced, is that of Mr. Driller Encore. This is actually a HD port of the Japanese GameCube exclusive, Mr. Driller Drill Land. The first time this is seeing an English release, although so far there's no word of a physical in the West. Japan, however, does have a confirmed physical with English, so if no Western release is announced, this one will be one to import. Their second entry here is that of the NAMCO collection. Yes, NAMCO, that was their label who used to make the console ports of their arcade games. It's a super cheap collection of 11 games from the Famicom and I think other systems of that era, I'm not sure. It's also worth noting that DLC is planned, but I'm not sure about how many or in what capacity. Anyways, languages have not been confirmed for this one so far, but considering they are mostly old-timey arcade-style games, I can't imagine there being much of a language barrier. Again, a Western physical could happen, although I feel this one is slightly less likely than the one they already did with their arcade games. One that I have my eye on is that of Rolling Skye collection. This is a 2-game pack of the Rolling Skye games, which are 2 runners. They are both the same style of gameplay, fun, arcadey challenge, but visually they are worlds apart. Anyways, this one is only getting a physical release in Asia sometime in the next month or so, but they do have English. I have a feeling that this may be one that many people will miss out on due to its slightly obscure nature, so do keep your eyes on it if you're a collector. Will be an interesting one for the collection, I'm sure. Umihara Kawase Bazooka is a spin-off title of the obscure but well-loved Umihara Kawase series. This is basically a reworking of the engine used in the last game, Fresh, and they've turned it into a single-screen multiplayer challenge. Yeah, each level is one screen filled with a task or enemies to defeat, and you and your friends can do it together. I have to admit, this doesn't look like something I would have wanted the series to do, as, you know, the large sprawling levels were always the selling point for me. But, you know, it could be a fun time, who knows. A Western release is possible, although I'm not sure if a publisher would have the faith in a physical in the West for this one. I mean, if Nicholas couldn't do Ikaruga physically, then I'm not sure they will believe this one will sell better than that. Anyways, if not, the Japanese physical does have English, so it's ripe for an import. Human Fall Flat goes for a crazy amount of money these days, especially considering it was one of Super 8 Games' first releases. Well, if you missed out and you don't want to pay 150 quid for a copy, well, good news is that the game is getting a physical release in Japan with English on the cartridge and one would assume a more up-to-date game. Yes, this game has been a bit of a quiet phenomenon over the years, especially in Japan, and so Super 8 Games gave up their exclusivity deal to give it to the bigger audience that it deserves. This one should be out next month in June if you want to get it for a quarter of the price of the Western release. Synaptic Drive is getting a physical release in Japan with English on the cartridge. The West is only getting a digital release for this third-person arena shooter. It's 1v1, tense shooting battles with your highly customizable characters and loadouts. I've got to be honest, it looks a little cheap from my perspective, but who knows, maybe when you've got a mate by your side, it could be massive amounts of fun. This one is releasing at the end of May, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of the most obscure imports around. Remember, the West is only getting a digital release, that is confirmed. The Coma Double Cut is a 2-game pack of the Coma 1 and 2. These are 2D Korean survival horror games that are well liked. The Coma 1 was actually my first review for SwitchWatch, and to be honest, it had a lot of issues for me personally, but I seem to be in the minority. The second game is supposedly even better. If you fancy roaming around haunted Korean schools with the murderer hell-bent on taking you down, you'll probably get a kick out of these. One can assume the games have English. The first definitely does, although it's unknown whether this will get a Western release or not. It's entirely possible, but there's been no word at all so far. There's still time, however, since this isn't releasing until August, so keep your eyes on it. Alright, let's go into the community spotlight where you show off your physicals. Plus, if you get featured, you'll be in with a chance of winning a physical Switch game. Yes, I'm guessing by the time this month is up, hopefully things will have returned to normal, and so the winner of this month of May can choose one of these games available. I thought I'd give you some choice, plus I can keep the rest for myself. Alright, Retro Games starts off this week with a nice bit of retro RPG goodness. Neverwinter Nights is a game that will surely take up countless hours of your time if you're nostalgic for that era of gaming. I have to admit, this kind of game passed me by when I grew up, and so I wonder what it's like to newcomers. Peter Clark got in the Maitetsu Pure Station, a visual novel with a very, shall we say, peculiar premise. So much so that I don't want to explain it because, frankly, you wouldn't believe me. Anyways, this is one of the recent Eastern exclusive visual novels that does have English on the cartridge, so it's ripe for import, as you can see here. And he also sent in a couple more games. that are perfect for import too. The Japanese exclusive of Headliner, Nova News, and Little Busters, which we reviewed on our website and praised it very highly. 2 great imports since they both have English and did not get a Western release. Highly recommended. Chucks Taylor sent in quite a few pictures, firstly of the Mega Man Zero ZX collection, also of Donut County. This seems to be being sent out to people at this very moment, so yeah, I love that cover art. I love how the title of the game integrates with the artwork. Much better than just having a logo slapped on it. And finally, he sent in this picture with a nice eclectic mix of games. Fluttershout sent in a few pictures, firstly of this lovely collector's edition of Omega Labyrinth Life. This is the Asian version, which is the one that has English. I mean, how can you say no to that? They also sent in these pickups too. Looks like some bargains in there. Transient Image sent in this mix of modern and retro. Can I just say that Desert Strike and Jungle Strike were awesome games back in the day. Stephen Dommett finally got his hands on the Final Fantasy VII and 8 Double Pipe, which for me is one of the essential imports. I can't believe this was never released in the West. It's one of my favorites in my collection. Mr. Valgard picked up Trials of Mana and Snack World, 2 very solid games. I wonder how well Trials of Mana Remake has done so far in terms of sales. It would be interesting to see how well it's done in the West especially. Punky Dooster showed off this collection of great action games. Can't go wrong with a bit of Darksiders. Also, Friday 13th, does that still have an online presence these days? I'm curious about the longevity on that one. Rick C showed off this mostly RPG collection. There's one of the supposedly rare Oninaki European releases. I definitely hold on to that one if I was you. Also, I think people often forget about The World Ends With You. I know it wasn't the best fitting port for the Switch, but it's still a damn fine game. Luke Zonies, sorry I don't know how to say your name, had a few similarities with Rick. You don't see Super Epic much, well at least I don't. In fact, I don't have a clue what the game's all about. I think I need to do a bit more research on that one. Bruno Silva sent in a couple of pictures, firstly of Trials of Mana once again, and the classic Witcher 3, but they also sent in Disgaea 5, which blew my mind at that price, €10. 10 euros! That's insane value. I'd have bought 5 for that price. L Peanut showed off his collection, which the more I look at it, the more impressed I get. There's some great collector's editions in there, including Onimusha peeking out from the back, Gekaido, which is not a game you see often. Shane Meath showed off Cooking Mama, plus a lovely collection of fine games, some great first-party quality from Nintendo, and I'm always happy to see Katamari Damacy in there. Such a fun, crazy game. Momo Hasa, I'm sorry I don't know how to say your name, showed off these games, including a couple of P-Cube visual novels like Our World Is Ended and Root Letter. Root Letter is one of my favorites. It's a bit weird with the realistic art style and the tonal shifts from comedy and stuff, but you know what? I really enjoyed it. Joel Parker is a man of true taste with his Day 1 edition of Dusk Diver, one of my favorite games of last year. A bit rough, but lots of fun and charm, exactly what I love in games. Juan, yes, SwitchWatch's very own Juan, couldn't resist a bargain and picked up these 6 games from the game collection. They were only like £9 each for the most part, and you cannot say no to that. Susha, also known on YouTube as Figma Reviews, sent in 2 very cool pictures of some great games. They have the very cool Katakami, a hack and slash import exclusive. There aren't a whole lot of Z-rated Switch games in Japan, but that is one of the few. Also nice to see something like Remilo. It's a game that's not talked about much despite being quite good. Definitely worth a look if you can find it for like $20 or so. Troy sent in this photo of some great games. Man, that Resident Evil, I really wish both games were on that cartridge. That would have been an incredible physical if that was the case. Sadly, only Resident Evil 0 is on the cartridge, whereas the first game is a download. Tommy Mayers sent in this great photo, including quite a new release in Moving Out. That's the first time we've seen it here, right, in the series. Sayonara Wild Hearts, also an excellent Switch game. It's only like 2 hours long or something, but apparently worth every single penny. Kurt Cannongrave got in Naruto Roto Burrito. I know it's not burrito. Did anyone else pick this one up or plan to pick it up? If you don't know what it's all about, be sure to check out Juan's review. Sorry, this picture is a bit cut off. There was a technical error downloading it and I didn't realize it until after I deleted the email. Sorry, Kurt. Our executive producer, God of Resin, showed off this lovely photo, showing off some nicer, less spoken of games. Opus Collection is a nice obscure one, as is My Friend Pedro. Mansfield Bear showed off this nice long photo, including the Annapurna Interactive Games. They really have a talent for nice cover art. Also, that Divinity 2 looks pretty badass. Chris Hepburn picked up Runner 3 and did a nice little unboxing for us, as he usually does. You get a mini CD, a keychain, and a booklet, plus reversible cover art. Nice. I actually quite liked this game when I reviewed it for the channel. It was really hard back when it first released. I think they did patch it eventually though, but either way, it's a lot of fun if you like rhythm games. Jonathan sent in these 3 games. First, a Play Asia exclusive, Oniken and Odalis. Agulus, a game that I really want to pick up if I ever find it here in China or when I travel back to England, plus the brand new release of Trials of Mana. And finally, to end this week, we have another Sayonara Wild Hearts from Dimigs. Looks like this one might actually be quite popular. And also, they got Samurai Showdown, a nice return to a well-loved fighting franchise. Might be a nice time for me to mention the Gals Fighters review that I put out last week. Be sure to check out that if you didn't watch it already. Alright, thanks ladies and gents. If you want to send in your recent editions, or perhaps your favourite Switch games, or games you think are underrated, doesn't matter how many you send, just send it to me over on Twitter at SoWhatAboutGame. Please send me a direct message so I can keep track of it, or you can email it into us at contactors@switchwatch.co.uk. Just make sure you start the email title with Community Spotlight, so that I don't miss it. Plus, we have a Discord, which is a nice way where we can talk with you guys, plus you can send your pictures over there on the submission section. Right guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of New Physical. Special thanks to our executive producers, Dane Wilkinson and God of Resin, and all the others who have joined our memberships. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for your support. Which games have taken your fancy this week? Please be sure to let us know and watch last week's episode in case you missed it, plus a couple of reviews that you may have missed. We'll see you guys over there. Take care.